Imagine being at the most glamorous event of the year. Celebrities everywhere, cameras flashing, red carpets stretching as far as the eye can see. You walk in, poised, elegant, fully aware that every eye in the room and every lens outside is on you. But instead of awe and admiration, something unexpected happens. Something that will humiliate you in front of the world. Now, imagine that the person orchestrating this moment is none other than Selena Gomez. Yes, Selena Gomez, one of the biggest names in pop culture today. And the place? The wedding of Benny Blanco, the music producer whose guest list reads like a who's who of Hollywood and the music industry. You might be wondering, why would Selena do something so shocking? Why target Meghan Markle, the former Duchess, who has navigated the royal spotlight and Hollywood with grace, resilience, and poise? This is not just a story about a celebrity spat. This is a story about power, perception, and a clash of worlds. Royalty meets pop royalty, and the results are explosive. Before we continue, please hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell for updates. It all started long before the wedding. Rumors, whispers, subtle tension. Meghan arriving fashionably late, of course, drawing attention immediately. She is used to the gaze, to the whispers, to the judgment. She knows how to navigate it, or so she thought. Meanwhile, Selena, radiant and commanding, surrounded by friends and allies, is clearly the center of this universe tonight. Every smile, every nod, every glance carries weight. And when the two finally cross paths, the room feels it. The tension is almost tangible, thick enough to cut with a knife. Guests remember the scene vividly. Meghan, in a stunning dress that shimmered under the chandeliers, exuding elegance, confidence, and a subtle air of defiance. Selena, glowing with effortless charisma, aware of every camera, every whispered conversation, every eye following her moves. The collision of these two worlds was inevitable, but no one expected the drama that was about to unfold. In the first moments, it was subtle. A glance that lingered too long. A polite nod that felt more like a challenge. A whisper that seemed innocent, but carried undertones of rivalry. But as the night progressed, the whispers turned to audible murmurs. Guests began noticing the tension. Cameras caught the side glances. And then it happened, a moment that would instantly become viral, a scene replayed in every media outlet the next morning. Security was called by Selena Gomez herself. The details are murky, and the accounts vary depending on who you believe, but one thing is consistent. Meghan was asked to leave, and the spectacle was undeniable. Imagine the humiliation, the shock, the disbelief. A former Duchess, used to commanding respect and maintaining composure under unimaginable pressure, now faced with a situation that left her stunned, everyone watching, wondering what she would do next. Why did this happen? Some speculate it was personal. Others suggest it was strategic, a power play in the glittering world of celebrity influence. Some insiders hint at old grievances, subtle slights, and jealousies that festered unnoticed until tonight. And as with every high-profile event, social media exploded. Fans, critics, and casual onlookers shared opinions, memes, and hot takes within minutes. The hashtag trended. Clips went viral. Everyone wanted to know, what did Meghan do to provoke this? How did Selena feel confident enough to make such a bold move? And more importantly, what happens next? As shocking as it seems, this is just the tip of the iceberg. Behind every glance, every whispered word, and every dramatic gesture, there is a backstory, a complex web of personal dynamics, professional rivalries, and hidden motives that very few have access to. We'll explore them all. The alliances, the secrets, the betrayals, and yes, the moments of sheer drama that no one expected. But here's the thing about these events. The public only sees what's on the surface. A single moment, a viral clip, a headline screaming, "Meghan humiliated." But the layers beneath tell a very different story. The interactions in the corners of the ballroom, the private conversations, the subtle maneuvers, the power plays that go unnoticed by most. All of this paints a much richer, much more intense picture. And while it's easy to judge from the outside, to form opinions based on a fleeting video clip or a social media post, the truth is often far more complicated. Meghan's response, the subtle ways she tried to maintain composure, the hints of strategy in her gestures, the mental gymnastics required to navigate such a high-stakes social minefield. These are the elements that define what happened that night. You have to wonder, how does one recover from such a moment in public life? How do you maintain dignity, reputation, and influence after a public spectacle orchestrated by another celebrity? And is it possible that this incident is more than just a one-off humiliation, that it's part of a larger, ongoing narrative involving power, control, and social dominance in Hollywood's elite circles? Guests recall seeing Meghan take a deep breath, compose herself, and continue mingling. But the moment lingered. Every conversation afterwards carried echoes of the incident. Every glance she received seemed colored by it. And while Selena's confidence seemed unshaken, those who were closest to the unfolding events hint at an undercurrent of tension, a sense that even she was aware that she had crossed a line that could have unintended consequences. We'll delve into everything. The moments leading up to the confrontation, the reactions of the guests, the subtle social cues, the potential motives, and the aftermath that unfolded both online and offline. You'll hear insider accounts, examine the dynamics of celebrity influence, and explore the unspoken rules that govern these high-profile interactions. By the end of this story, you'll see that what happened at Benny Blanco's wedding is more than just a scandalous clip or viral moment. It's a case study in power, influence, public perception, and the delicate balancing act of navigating fame. And while the video clip may have captured the humiliation, it barely scratches the surface of the drama, strategy, and intrigue that defined this unforgettable night. But what came next would change everything, and no one saw it coming. The moment Meghan stepped out of the sleek black car, all eyes in the courtyard snapped toward her. It was as if time slowed. Cameras clicked in rapid succession, flashes igniting against the evening sky like fireworks. Every movement, every step, every subtle tilt of her head was scrutinized, dissected, and broadcast to a waiting world. But this wasn't just any event. This was Benny Blanco's wedding, a gathering of the glitterati, the movers, the shakers, and the influencers who decide the narrative before it even hits the headlines. And tonight, Meghan Markle was not just a guest. She was the spectacle everyone had been anticipating. You could feel it in the air. The tension, the whispers that traveled faster than the camera's shutter speed. Who would approach first? Who would avoid who? Who held grudges? And who was playing diplomacy? In celebrity circles, a glance, a smile, or a misstep can define alliances or spark feuds. And tonight, everything was about to collide. Guests who had arrived earlier were already primed. They had sipped champagne, exchanged pleasantries, and subtly sized up one another. Many had their own agendas, whether networking, social climbing, or simply ensuring their social media coverage would trend by the end of the night. And then, Meghan arrived. Everything shifted. Conversations paused mid-sentence. Eyes darted. Some whispered, "She's here." Others muttered, "This is going to be interesting." The buzz was immediate, electric, unavoidable. Meghan, ever composed, navigated the crowd with calculated elegance. Every step was deliberate, every gesture measured. She smiled where required, nodded where appropriate, and yet there was an unmistakable tension in her movements, an awareness that tonight was not just another glamorous appearance. She could feel it. The subtle glances from the corner of the room, the half-smiles, the raised eyebrows, the whispered comments that weren't meant for her ears but carried weight all the same. It's one thing to walk into a room filled with paparazzi and cameras. It's another to walk into a room where the social equilibrium is fragile, charged with anticipation, and where one wrong move could spark chaos. Then there was Selena Gomez, and the room knew. Even before they met face to face, the energy shifted again. Selena's presence was magnetic, undeniable, commanding. Friends hovered nearby, strategically positioned, ensuring she remained at the center of attention. Her every movement was fluid, rehearsed, yet effortless. A smile here, a subtle laugh there. But beneath the charm, there was vigilance. Selena's eyes scanned the room, calculating, anticipating reactions. And when they lingered briefly on Meghan, a flicker of recognition passed. Something unspoken, an unacknowledged tension, a subtle acknowledgement that tonight, lines were about to be drawn. The first few moments were innocuous enough. Meghan was greeted politely by distant acquaintances, nods exchanged, compliments delivered with practiced warmth. But the camera lenses told a different story. They captured a subtle stiffness, A micro-expression here, a sideways glance there. Observers familiar with celebrity dynamics could see it immediately. Meghan was aware of Selena, and Selena was aware of her. Each movement carried meaning. Each interaction, no matter how brief, was loaded with unspoken history, real or perceived. And then came the whispers. Guests leaning in closer, murmuring, "Did you see the look they gave each other? I think something's brewing." This could get messy. In a room filled with public figures who had spent years mastering their media image, whispers like these were dangerous. They spread faster than rumors on Twitter, creating narrative before the narrative even existed. The juxtaposition was striking. Meghan, a former Duchess, used to navigating palace intrigue and global scrutiny, moved with royal poise. Selena, a pop icon, accustomed to fans and fame, radiated confidence. Two worlds collided, Hollywood glamour and royal composure, and the result was a tension almost palpable enough to taste. And then, something unexpected happened. A mutual acquaintance attempted to bridge the space between them, a well-intentioned handshake, a casual comment, a laugh meant to ease the tension. But it backfired. The exchange, meant to defuse, only amplified the scrutiny. Every movement was caught on camera. Every subtle cue became a talking point. And just like that, the stage was set. Guests later recounted the scene in vivid detail. The way Meghan's smile faltered just slightly. The way Selena's laugh seemed sharper than necessary. The way the room held its collective breath. The energy had shifted from anticipation to tension, from intrigue to drama. And yet, at this point, nothing overt had happened. It was subtle, like the calm before a storm, but insiders knew what was coming. Meanwhile, social media was already primed. As Meghan's arrival photos circulated, fans and critics weighed in immediately. Some praised her elegance, her poise. Others questioned her presence. Rumors started to spread before the first course had even been served. Could this wedding become the setting for a full-blown celebrity showdown? Everyone was watching, and everyone had an opinion. The beauty of celebrity dynamics, however, is that perception often outweighs reality. Meghan's composure suggested she was unshaken, but the tension beneath the surface was undeniable. The calculated steps she took, the measured smiles, the polite nods, all were strategies to maintain control in a room where control could be so easily lost. Selena, for her part, appeared equally unshaken, but her strategic placement, her attentiveness, suggested she was not just present for celebration. She was present to assert dominance, to send subtle signals, to stake her claim as the central figure of the night. And then the whispers began to shift again. Observers reported seeing guests glance nervously between Meghan and Selena. One source said, "It was like watching two queens circling each other, testing boundaries, trying to see who would blink first." The metaphor was apartment. In the world of celebrity, in the world of influence, appearances are everything. A faltering smile, a too long glance, a subtle smirk. Each has the potential to ignite speculation, gossip, and eventually, viral moments. The tension mounted with each passing minute. Conversations around them slowed as eyes and ears subtly redirected toward the two women. Even those not particularly interested in celebrity gossip could feel the charged atmosphere. Some tried to defuse it with humor. Others discreetly recorded on their phones, sensing that history, or at least a headline, was being made. Then, just when it seemed the night would continue with only underlying tension, an incident occurred that no one could have predicted. A minor comment, seemingly innocuous, set off a chain reaction. Security staff tensed. Guests exchanged shocked glances. Cameras zoomed in. The subtle, simmering friction between Meghan and Selena exploded, setting the stage for what would become a viral moment. And in that instant, the whispers turned into audible murmurs, the tension escalated into drama, and everyone knew the night had officially changed. The question that lingered in everyone's minds, and should linger in yours, is this: how does a single glance, a fleeting comment, or a strategic placement ignite such a spectacle? How do centuries of royal composure collide with modern celebrity bravado to create a moment that captivates the world? And more importantly, how does one recover from the first spark of humiliation in front of the most influential people on the planet? As the evening progressed, it became clear that this was more than an isolated incident. The dynamics between Meghan and Selena had set off a ripple effect, influencing conversations, movements, and even seating arrangements across the ballroom. Allies and acquaintances quietly shifted positions, adjusting their proximity, subtly signaling allegiance or caution. What had begun as a quiet tension had become a social earthquake, and the aftershocks would be felt far beyond the walls of the wedding venue. And just as the tension reached its peak, a move was made, a decision that would shock everyone present. Security was called, not a minor precaution, not a routine gesture, but a direct action that would change the trajectory of the night. Meghan, poised and dignified, suddenly found herself at the center of a situation that even her most practiced composure struggled to navigate. The world was watching, both inside the venue and through the lens of cameras broadcasting every angle. Guests later described the moment as surreal. Some couldn't believe what they were seeing. Others whispered to one another, trying to make sense of the audacity. And social media? Within minutes, the first posts went live, captions dripping with shock and speculation. Videos were uploaded, shared, and dissected. Memes began to form. The narrative was already beginning to take shape, but it was only just starting. By the end of the night, one thing was clear. What had begun as subtle tension between two powerful women had escalated into a full-blown spectacle that no one would forget. And the ripple effects, both public and private, were only beginning to unfold. But what came next would escalate the drama even further, and no one saw it coming. The room had barely settled after the initial tension of Meghan's arrival when the inevitable happened. The first encounter. Two powerful presences moving toward each other in a ballroom buzzing with anticipation. And in that instant, the atmosphere thickened. You could feel it. Every guest, every camera, every phone in the room honed in on what was about to unfold. This wasn't just a casual meeting. This was a collision of worlds, a test of dominance, and a moment that could set the tone for the entire evening. So, what actually happens when two celebrities, each used to commanding attention, each accustomed to influence, finally meet after a charged build-up? In this case, it began subtly, almost innocuously. A polite smile from Selena, a soft nod from Meghan, a handshake extended and received. But in a room teeming with observers, no gesture is ever truly innocent. Every movement is dissected, analyzed, and placed under a microscope. The cameras captured it all, the subtle hesitation in Meghan's hand, the glint of recognition in Selena's eyes, the brief pause where both seemed to measure the other. The whispers around the room grew louder. Do you see that? This is going to be intense. It's like watching two forces of nature facing off. And indeed it was. Meghan's presence carried the weight of royalty, an air of command, dignity, and restraint cultivated over years of public scrutiny. Selena's aura, meanwhile, radiated confidence, charm, and a subtle edge of assertiveness honed in the world of pop superstardom. The intersection of these two energies created an electric tension, one that had everyone holding their breath. Meghan tried to remain composed, engaging briefly with acquaintances around her while keeping an eye on Selena. She offered a smile, small, controlled, deliberate. Selena responded with a smile that was equally composed, but sharper in a way that suggested awareness, calculation, and readiness. It was the kind of smile that could convey warmth or dominance depending on the observer's interpretation. And the room noticed. Everyone noticed. Then came the first verbal exchange. Short, polite, and loaded with subtext. "It's been a while," Selena said, her tone seemingly light, but with a subtle inflection that hinted at something else, perhaps a challenge, perhaps curiosity, perhaps a test of control. Meghan responded graciously, but carefully, choosing words that maintained diplomacy while protecting her presence. "Yes, it has," she said, measured, poised. Yet even in that simple reply, there was an awareness of the stakes. Every syllable mattered. Every inflection, a signal. Guests who witnessed the interaction described a series of microreactions, slight shifts in posture, a barely noticeable tilt of the head, the way eyes darted for a fraction of a second. In celebrity culture, these micromovements are loaded with meaning. They can signal dominance, submission, wariness, or alliance. And tonight, every observer had their own interpretation. Some thought Meghan was confident. Others thought she was cautious. Some admired Selena's poise. Others sensed the subtle undercurrent of a challenge. Meanwhile, social media eyes were already analyzing the photos and videos uploaded in real time. Fans dissected every frame. Memes began circulating of the two women standing side by side, the contrast in body language striking. Observers debated posture, facial expressions, and subtle interactions. Could this be the start of a full-blown feud? Was there history they weren't revealing? Or was this merely a misinterpretation of two accomplished women navigating a high-pressure social environment? What made this encounter extraordinary, though, wasn't just the subtlety of their interaction, it was the surrounding context. Benny Blanco's wedding was not just a gathering of friends and family. It was a stage for the entertainment elite. Hollywood insiders, music industry executives, influencers with followings in the millions, all present, all observing, all ready to amplify even the smallest moment. And the cameras? Relentless. Every glance, every smile, every tiny gesture captured for posterity. The stakes could not have been higher. As Meghan and Selena continued their brief exchange, the tension seemed to escalate. A laugh from Selena, polite but slightly pointed. A nod from Meghan, poised but perhaps just a fraction too sharp. The room felt like it had contracted around the two women, each motion magnified, each reaction recorded in memory and on camera. It was a psychological game, subtle, strategic, and merciless. Guests later recalled the sense of anticipation growing in the room. Conversations slowed as eyes lingered on the encounter. Phone cameras rose. Some people whispered to neighbors, "This is the moment everyone will talk about tomorrow." Others tried to ignore it, pretending not to notice, but even they couldn't help but steal glances. The social gravity between Meghan and Selena was magnetic, unavoidable, and impossible to ignore. Then came the first real spark. The microaggression that shifted the encounter from polite tension to something more volatile. A slight adjustment of a dress here, a hand gesture there, a fleeting comment that could be interpreted multiple ways. These small acts are often invisible to the casual observer, but in the charged atmosphere of celebrity dynamics, they are magnified exponentially. And that night, it was enough to make the room lean in, to make the whispers grow louder, to make cameras linger longer. Meghan's composure remained intact, but even she could feel the weight of the moment. Every decision, where to stand, how to gesture, what to say, was strategic. This was not merely about attending a wedding. It was about preserving reputation, authority, and influence in a room where perception is everything. Selena, too, moved with awareness. Her actions were measured, confident, and perhaps intentionally provocative. Every smile, every laugh, every glance carried meaning, and the tension between them was palpable. The first encounter lasted only moments, but it was enough. Enough to set off the first ripple of drama, enough to create social media speculation, enough to ensure that the narrative of the night would revolve around this single interaction. Guests began to speculate. Was this rivalry real or imagined? Was there past history, or was it purely a matter of clashing personalities and high-pressure circumstances? The speculation only added fuel to the fire. By the end of the encounter, one thing was clear. The night had already been transformed. What might have been a glamorous, celebratory evening was now a high-stakes social chess match. Observers sensed that this was just the beginning, that the tension was only going to escalate, and that everyone in the room would be affected by the fallout. And then, the moment came that changed everything. Selena, confident and assertive, made a decision, a move that no one expected, a bold assertion of control that would ripple through the room, the wedding, and the internet in ways that no one could predict. But what Selena did next would not only shock Meghan, it would shock every single guest in attendance and the world watching from afar. The room had barely begun to breathe after that intense first encounter when the unthinkable happened. A hush fell over the ballroom, subtle at first, almost imperceptible, but then the tension became palpable. Guests noticed it before they understood it. Something was happening. Something that would turn a glamorous evening into a viral spectacle. Security was moving. And not just the usual unobtrusive presence. This was different. This was deliberate, purposeful, focused. And at the center of it all was Selena Gomez. Why would Selena make such a move? That question hung in the air like smoke. She had been smiling, mingling, radiant in the glow of the room. seemingly enjoying the attention she naturally commanded. But beneath the charm and the poise, there was calculation. There was strategy. There was a decision being executed with precision. Guests later recalled the moment vividly. One said, "It felt like watching a chess grandmaster make her move, and Meghan was the pawn." Another whispered, "I couldn't believe what I was seeing. It was shocking and mesmerizing at the same time." The security team approached discreetly at first. A casual lean here, a subtle step there. But their focus was unmistakable. Every movement was deliberate, every eye scanning the surroundings. And then the whispers began to spread through the crowd. Why are they moving toward her? Is something wrong? Did she do something? The curiosity, the anticipation, the tension, it was unbearable, almost magnetic. Everyone instinctively shifted closer, craning their necks, ready for the spectacle that was clearly about to unfold. Meghan noticed immediately. Her eyes flicked to the approaching security detail. Her lips pressed into a thin line. A flicker of surprise? Perhaps. Disbelief? Possibly. The former Duchess, used to command, control, and royal protocol, was suddenly faced with a situation outside her expectations, outside her control. Guests described the scene. Meghan paused mid-step, subtly adjusting her posture, her mind calculating, assessing. Should she retreat? Should she confront? Should she remain composed? Every decision carried stakes far beyond the ballroom. Selena, by contrast, remained composed, but there was an unmistakable edge to her movements, a clarity of purpose. Every gesture, every smile, every casual word to nearby friends was part of a performance. She was asserting authority in a room full of powerful figures, and she had chosen the moment carefully. The subtle message was unmistakable. She controlled this situation, and everyone watching understood that she meant business. The first words came quietly. Selena, in a low voice, called out to a security officer. A whispered command, almost inaudible over the soft music, but the effect was immediate. The guards, alert and professional, moved closer to Meghan. One blocked a subtle path, another positioned at her side, as if to intercept, as if to enforce some unspoken rule. The subtle choreography was deliberate, the intention crystal clear. Guests began murmuring, some shocked, others thrilled by the unfolding drama. Cameras focused on the growing scene. Phones went up. Social media was already lighting up with live updates from those lucky enough to be capturing it first. Why would this happen at a wedding, a place meant for celebration and unity? Theories abound. Some suggested a personal vendetta, a lingering tension from past interactions, or jealousy over status, attention, or influence. Others whispered about strategic maneuvering in Hollywood's complex social hierarchy, an assertion of dominance that sends a clear signal to peers and media alike. No matter the reason, the effect was undeniable. The room shifted, the energy changed, and everyone felt it. Meghan, acutely aware of the eyes and the cameras, remained composed, but the intensity was visible in her subtle expressions. Her lips pressed together, a slight furrow in her brow. She adjusted her posture, head held high, attempting to maintain the grace that had defined her public persona. But the public humiliation was already underway. Security moving toward you in a high-profile setting is a spectacle in itself, even before any words are exchanged. And tonight, every eye in that room, and every lens outside, was witnessing the drama firsthand. As the security team moved, guests whispered about what could have provoked such action. Did she overstep? Was there a misunderstanding? Or was this intentional? Even in the controlled chaos, social media users speculated endlessly. Clips began circulating in real time. A phone camera caught Meghan's expression, subtle but telling. The first wave of reactions poured in: shock, empathy, humor, and judgment. The incident was instantly trending, capturing the attention of millions who weren't even at the event. And then the escalation happened. One of the security officers gently but firmly positioned himself closer to Meghan, signaling, in effect, that she needed to move. It was not a suggestion. It was a command. Meghan's eyes met Selena's across the room. A flash of realization? Of indignation? Perhaps. Every subtle gesture, every micro-expression carried meaning, and the room, as well as the online audience, caught it all. Guests reported that the mood shifted instantly. Conversations stopped mid-sentence. Glasses paused halfway to mouths. Phones were raised, capturing every second. The tension was electric, and everyone in the ballroom instinctively understood that this was more than a simple security precaution. This was a deliberate, public statement, a moment of humiliation orchestrated, or at least sanctioned, by one of the evening's central figures. At that moment, Meghan's internal calculation began. How do you maintain composure when the narrative is being written around you in real time? How do you assert dignity when the optics are overwhelmingly against you? Every second mattered. Every decision carried weight. Guests noticed her brief hesitation, the subtle adjustments to her posture, the slight tilt of her head, as if measuring how to respond. It was a delicate balance of pride, poise, and survival. And just when the drama seemed at its peak, an unexpected intervention occurred. A mutual acquaintance, perhaps sensing the growing spectacle, attempted to mediate. A hand lightly touched Meghan's arm. A whisper in her ear. A suggestion to step aside, to defuse. But in a room charged with tension and cameras, such gestures often have the opposite effect. They only draw more attention. They amplify the stakes. The whispers turned into audible speculation. Is she leaving? What's happening? This is unprecedented. The social media landscape exploded in tandem. Clips of the encounter circulated faster than anyone could monitor. Comments ranged from shock to amusement, from empathy to criticism. Memes began forming immediately, highlighting every detail. Meghan's expression, Selena's composure, the subtle positioning of the security team. Within minutes, the wedding had become a global spectacle, with millions weighing in from around the world. But amid all the external chaos, one fact remained undeniable. The encounter had fundamentally shifted the power dynamics of the night. Meghan's public image, her composure, and her ability to navigate scrutiny were being tested in real time, while Selena's assertiveness and influence became undeniably visible. Guests later admitted they could feel the tension radiating, almost like a physical presence in the room. The subtle choreography of power, status, and perception was unfolding in front of their eyes, and everyone sensed the magnitude. And then, just as Meghan adjusted herself to respond, to assert poise, and to navigate the unfolding humiliation, Selena made the move that would ensure this night was unforgettable. A direct action, executed with precision, that would leave guests stunned, cameras rolling, and social media ablaze. What happened next wasn't just shocking. It redefined the narrative of the evening. It was the moment that would be replayed endlessly, dissected in tabloids, analyzed on talk shows, and shared across every social platform imaginable. But what Selena did next would not only humiliate Meghan in front of the wedding guests, it would shock the world watching from afar. The moment had arrived. The subtle tension, the whispered speculation, the carefully orchestrated maneuvers. All of it came to a head in a way that no one in the ballroom could ignore. Meghan Markle, the former Duchess, poised and composed under decades of public scrutiny, now faced something she could not navigate with royal protocol alone. Public humiliation in real time, in front of cameras, social media, and the world's gaze. It began with a subtle but deliberate gesture from Selena Gomez. A tilt of the head, a sharp, knowing smile, a glance that signaled authority, control, and perhaps a hint of challenge. Then came the words, a polite, almost casual directive, but one laced with unmistakable weight. Security, move her. The officers, trained and professional, approached with precision. Meghan felt the shift immediately. A human barrier forming, a cordon subtly guiding her movement, a physical manifestation of social exclusion. Guests noticed instantly. Conversations faltered. Drinks paused halfway to lips. All eyes were drawn to the unfolding spectacle. What makes humiliation in public so uniquely powerful is that it combines vulnerability, exposure, and social perception. Meghan's every reaction, every subtle expression, every micro-movement was broadcast, analyzed, and amplified. A slight frown, a subtle pause, a fleeting glance. All these seemingly minor gestures became statements. She could maintain composure, but the optics were unforgiving. And in the world of celebrity culture, optics often outweigh reality. The cameras captured her dignity clashing against the mechanics of exclusion, creating a scene that was at once tense, dramatic, and painfully captivating. Guests later described the event as surreal. It was like watching someone with all the poise in the world suddenly face a tidal wave of control, one attendee said. You could feel her processing it all, the shock, the indignation, the calculation. And yet, she carried herself with grace that was almost painful to witness, knowing how exposed she was. Others whispered to each other, speculating on motive. Why would Selena do this? Was this planned? Or just a moment of impulsive power? The room, already thick with curiosity, now hung on every movement. Meanwhile, social media erupted. The first clips circulated within seconds. Meghan stepping aside, guided by security, her expressions subtle but telling. Viewers around the world dissected every frame. Comments poured in, shock, empathy, criticism, speculation. Memes began forming instantly, juxtaposing Meghan's elegance with the theatricality of the security intervention. Within minutes, the hashtag associated with the wedding began trending. Analysts, bloggers, and influencers weighed in, debating every detail, every nuance. The spectacle had escaped the ballroom and entered the digital zeitgeist. Yet, despite the outward display of control by Selena and the orchestrated movement of security, Meghan's inner calculation was remarkable. Former insiders suggest that she assessed every element in real time. Which way to step? How to tilt her head? How to maintain poise without seeming reactive? How to project strength without aggression? It was a masterclass in public navigation under pressure, but one amplified by its very public nature. Every second was a test of endurance, dignity, and social acumen. The public humiliation was compounded by the reactions of others in the room. Allies and acquaintances of Selena subtly shifted positions, creating a physical and psychological blockade. Friends of Meghan observed cautiously, trying to offer support without drawing additional attention. Everyone became acutely aware of the optics. The dance of power was no longer metaphorical. It had become literal. Social hierarchies, influence, and reputation played out in a delicate ballet, and Meghan was at its center. The moment of maximum tension arrived when security, guided by Selena's directive, subtly steered Meghan toward a less central area of the ballroom. The effect was unmistakable. The former Duchess, usually commanding attention effortlessly, was now physically and symbolically displaced. Guests noticed, cameras captured, and the subtle cues amplified the sense of exclusion. Emotional spikes surged in the room. Shock, disbelief, curiosity, and even a touch of schadenfreude mingled in the air. Social media viewers watched it unfold in real time, commenting, theorizing, and forming instant narratives. Interestingly, Meghan's response was not overtly confrontational. She did not retaliate, yell, or create a scene in the traditional sense. Instead, she relied on subtle power moves, adjusting her posture, maintaining eye contact with certain guests, and carefully managing facial expressions. It was a delicate interplay of dignity, defiance, and strategy. Every microgesture communicated something, and every observer, both in the room and online, interpreted it differently. But here's what makes public humiliation uniquely potent. It's not just about what happens, it's about what others perceive. Guests whispered, speculated, and reassessed relationships. Some wondered if Meghan had provoked the incident. Others saw her as a victim, expertly maintaining composure under duress. The social and psychological stakes were immense. Every movement carried potential consequences for reputation, alliances, and future interactions in Hollywood and beyond. The digital audience amplified every nuance. Clips went viral almost immediately, with commentary ranging from supportive to critical. Memes juxtaposed Meghan's grace with the audacity of the intervention. Tweets speculated on motive, personal rivalry, power play, jealousy, or a calculated social strategy. Instagram stories, TikTok reactions, and YouTube clips all contributed to a narrative that was growing faster than anyone could control. What had been a private moment inside an opulent ballroom now became a global event, with millions forming opinions based on seconds of footage. Despite the humiliation, Meghan's presence remained magnetic. Observers noted her resilience. She continued moving gracefully, engaging with select guests, and maintaining poise under intense scrutiny. It was a lesson in composure, but also a demonstration of the fragility of reputation when exposed to orchestrated spectacle. The contrast between Selena's apparent control and Meghan's graceful endurance created a narrative tension that would dominate coverage for days. And yet, even as the night unfolded, the situation was far from resolved. Guests whispered about potential retaliation, speculation about conversations behind closed doors, and possible interventions by mutual acquaintances. Social media audiences debated whether Meghan would respond publicly, privately, or strategically ignore the incident. Every observer anticipated that the next move could redefine the narrative, potentially altering perceptions of both women and setting the stage for further drama. Then came a subtle, almost imperceptible gesture from Meghan, a shift in stance, a tilt of the chin, a fleeting glance toward Selena. Some guests noticed. Cameras captured it. Social media commentators immediately speculated. Was this defiance? A challenge? A signal that Meghan was not defeated, that her composure would endure, and that the narrative was far from complete? The moment created a new layer of tension, one that would fuel speculation and curiosity long after the wedding ended. And just when it seemed the incident had reached its peak, a new twist emerged. A mutual ally attempted to intervene, approaching Meghan quietly, offering a discreet suggestion to step aside or temporarily leave the spotlight. But in a room already electrified with anticipation and scrutiny, even this small gesture amplified the drama. Guests leaned closer, whispers intensified, and cameras refocused. The narrative was no longer just about exclusion. It was about strategy, optics, and public perception. The digital audience, as expected, erupted once more. Clips captured every angle: Meghan's expression, Selena's composure, the subtle adjustments of security. Tweets, Instagram stories, TikTok reactions. The story was trending worldwide within minutes. And yet, the unfolding drama was far more nuanced than the viral clips suggested. Every micro-movement, every glance, every gesture was laden with meaning, strategy, and potential consequence. By the time the first course was served, it was clear Meghan's public humiliation had become the defining moment of the night. The optics, the social signals, the media coverage, and the digital amplification all converged to create an unforgettable spectacle. Guests, social media users, and fans around the world were captivated. The incident would be dissected endlessly, analyzed for motive, meaning, and consequence. But what no one could anticipate was what happened next. A move that would escalate the humiliation, heighten the drama, and create a viral moment that would dominate headlines for days to come. The ballroom, once brimming with celebratory energy, now felt like a carefully calibrated stage for an unfolding drama. Meghan's public humiliation, orchestrated by the subtle but decisive actions of Selena Gomez and executed through the discreet yet powerful intervention of security, had left a lingering tension in the air. Guests, previously relaxed and enjoying the luxury of champagne and music, now spoke in hushed tones, exchanged knowing glances, and subtly repositioned themselves, as if the very air had shifted around them. Every interaction, every movement carried weight. The wedding was no longer a simple celebration. It had transformed into a theater of power, perception, and social strategy. Meghan, for her part, remained outwardly composed. She adjusted her posture, straightened her gown, and moved with deliberate grace, projecting confidence despite the undercurrent of humiliation. But beneath the polished exterior, her mind was racing. Every glance from Selena, every whisper from nearby guests, every camera flash was a reminder that this moment was being dissected and broadcast to the world. How would she navigate the rest of the evening? Which allies could she rely on? Which interactions were safe, and which could escalate into further drama? These were the questions playing in her mind, and she had to answer them in real time, with precision. Guests watched as Meghan circulated carefully, acknowledging select acquaintances with measured smiles, while deliberately avoiding the central spotlight. The subtle shift in her behavior did not go unnoticed. Some observers praised her poise, noting the elegance with which she maintained composure under extraordinary pressure. Others whispered about the social mechanics at play, speculating on potential alliances, past grievances, and strategic positioning. It was, in every sense, a masterclass in public navigation under duress, even if it was born from an uncomfortable and humiliating situation. Meanwhile, Selena continued to command attention. Her aura remained unshaken, a beacon of confidence and influence. She laughed with friends, posed for photos, and moved through the crowd with an ease that suggested absolute control over the evening's narrative. Yet, even as she maintained her composure, there was an undercurrent of awareness, a subtle acknowledgement that her actions had set off a chain reaction that could not be easily contained. The observers around her noticed, and social media audiences, already buzzing from the earlier incident, speculated endlessly. Was this an intentional power play, a spontaneous act, or was it a calculated assertion of dominance meant to shape perception, reputation, and influence simultaneously? As the evening progressed, the aftershocks of the initial humiliation became more apparent. Conversations around the ballroom were tinted with speculation, subtle judgment, and a careful analysis of every action. Guests who had previously been neutral began aligning themselves subtly, some gravitating closer to Selena, others maintaining a quiet alliance with Meghan. Social cues became amplified, and every whisper carried potential consequence. Even those attempting to enjoy the wedding found themselves inadvertently observing the unfolding social dynamics. Meghan's response to the situation was both strategic and emotionally resonant. She engaged in small, controlled gestures that communicated resilience and dignity without overt confrontation. A brief nod here, a calm smile there, a carefully measured laugh in response to a casual joke, all served to remind those watching that she was not defeated. Yet the emotional toll of the humiliation was evident in the fleeting micro-expressions. The brief tightening of lips, a subtle furrow of the brow, a momentary pause that betrayed internal calculation and frustration. Observers, both in the room and online, interpreted these signals in real time, adding layers of narrative, speculation, and drama. In addition to personal interactions, the structural dynamics of the ballroom itself contributed to the unfolding tension. Seating arrangements, previously unnoticed, now carried symbolic weight. Proximity to the bride and groom, positioning near influential guests, and even the direction of attention during speeches and toasts all became charged with meaning. Guests instinctively interpreted these cues, creating an invisible map of social alliances and hierarchies that was constantly shifting in response to Meghan's and Selena's movements. Social media, of course, played a pivotal role in magnifying the aftermath. Clips and photos captured subtle gestures that would have gone unnoticed in another context. Meghan's controlled smile, Selena's casual glance, a fleeting adjustment of a guest's posture. Fans, commentators, and critics immediately began dissecting the optics, speculating on motive, interpreting facial expressions, and debating the implications. Within minutes, the wedding became a global case study in celebrity social dynamics, power, and public perception. Memes emerged, juxtaposing Meghan's elegance with Selena's assertive maneuvers, amplifying the narrative of rivalry and tension. Amid all this, the groom, Benny Blanco, played a more understated role than most expected. Observers later reported that he remained composed, engaging guests, and focusing on the celebratory elements of the evening. Yet subtle cues suggested that even he was aware of the tension between Meghan and Selena. At moments, he glanced in their direction, perhaps weighing intervention versus neutrality, assessing potential fallout, or simply observing the social currents that were shaping his wedding night. His presence, calm and measured, provided a stabilizing counterpoint to the drama, yet also highlighted the stark contrast between the celebratory purpose of the event and the social spectacle unfolding around him. Alliances within the guest list began to subtly realign. Friends and acquaintances of Meghan discreetly positioned themselves to provide subtle support, while allies of Selena moved closer, maintaining proximity and projecting alignment. Observers described a careful choreography unfolding in the room, an intricate ballet of positioning, attention, and social signaling that underscored the high stakes of the evening. Even casual conversations were loaded with subtext, as every word, glance, and gesture carried potential consequence. The atmosphere was electric with anticipation and speculation. Guests noted that the energy of the room shifted depending on which figure was moving through the crowd. Meghan's calculated interactions, Selena's confident presence, and the subtle positioning of security created a dynamic tension that was palpable. Every observer, whether directly involved or merely watching from the sidelines, felt the gravity of the moment. And while Meghan maintained her outward composure, the internal calculus of dignity, strategy, and social perception never ceased. Meanwhile, the digital audience amplified every nuance. Clips capturing Meghan's gestures, Selena's expressions, and the positioning of security circulated rapidly. Fans speculated, analyzed, and debated every detail. Was Meghan reacting strategically or emotionally? Was Selena asserting dominance or simply navigating social space? Every second of footage was interpreted in multiple ways, with narratives forming and evolving faster than anyone could manage. The wedding, intended as a private celebration, had become a global spectacle of social hierarchy, influence, and public drama. Then came the moment that would cement the evening's narrative. A subtle yet deliberate action by Selena, an adjustment of her position, a directed glance, an almost imperceptible gesture, signaled to everyone in the room that the power dynamics had shifted decisively. Guests leaned in, whispers intensified, and cameras refocused. Even those attempting to ignore the drama found themselves drawn into the spectacle, compelled to observe, speculate, and anticipate the next move. The aftershocks of Meghan's public humiliation were far-reaching. Conversations, alliances, and perceptions continued to evolve throughout the night. The initial incident with security had set off a chain reaction, creating ripples that influenced every interaction, every glance, and every whispered word in the ballroom. Even as Meghan navigated the remainder of the evening with grace, the memory of the public humiliation lingered, shaping the atmosphere and narrative in ways that would persist long after the last dance and final toast. And just when it seemed that the situation had reached a temporary equilibrium, an unexpected revelation emerged. A comment, a whispered conversation, or perhaps a subtle visual cue sparked a new wave of drama. Guests froze, whispers intensified, and social media users speculated frantically. The aftermath was far from over, and the next turn in this high-stakes social game would take everyone by surprise. But what happened next would escalate the tension beyond anything anyone could have imagined, and no one in the ballroom was prepared for it. The whispers started almost immediately after the first wave of drama had settled. What had unfolded between Meghan Markle and Selena Gomez was no longer confined to the ballroom. It had already become the subject of speculation among guests, friends, and insiders. As the initial shock faded, a new layer of analysis emerged. Observers began to dissect not only what had happened, but why it had happened, and more importantly, what it meant for relationships, reputations, and alliances within the elite circles attending the wedding. One insider, who requested anonymity, described the scene as electric, almost surreal. "I've never seen anything like it," they said. People weren't just watching, they were calculating. Everyone in that room immediately started thinking about what this meant for their own positioning. It was like witnessing a social experiment live. The insider went on to explain how every gesture, every glance, and every whisper was being interpreted and reinterpreted in real time. Meghan's small smile, Selena's calm composure, the subtle placement of security, all of it became evidence for the narratives forming in the minds of those watching. Rumors, as always, began circulating almost immediately. Some claimed that Selena had been deliberately orchestrating this moment for months, leveraging her influence and social power to assert dominance. Others suggested it was a spontaneous response, an impulsive move triggered by a perceived slight earlier in the evening. A few whispered about personal history, possible past interactions between Meghan and Selena that had created tension beneath the surface. No one outside the room could confirm these stories, yet inside, they were spoken as if they were gospel, feeding the gossip mill with the immediacy and intensity only a high-profile event like this could produce. And then there were the digital insiders. Guests who were documenting the evening in real time on social media began posting their own interpretations, often framed as casual commentary but loaded with implications. One viral post suggested that Meghan had been deliberately provocative, and Selena's actions were a natural response. Another framed Selena as a bold and assertive figure, standing her ground against a perceived intrusion. Memes proliferated, playing on the contrasts in body language, facial expressions, and positioning. Within minutes, the incident was trending across multiple platforms, amplifying both the rumors and the speculation. The role of insiders in this situation cannot be understated. Those with backstage knowledge, whether friends, colleagues, or even security personnel, began sharing subtle hints, comments, and leaks that fueled the growing narrative. One source noted, "I was standing near the bar when it happened." Meghan's composure was impressive, but you could see the flicker of surprise in her eyes. Selena was completely in control, and honestly, it was thrilling to watch. Another commented on the choreography of the security team, speculating that their movements had been directed with precision to send a message not only to Meghan but to the entire room. The rumors didn't stop with personal dynamics. Some attendees began speculating about strategic implications within Hollywood and the music industry. Was this a deliberate power play? A calculated assertion of influence in front of high-profile guests? Could this incident impact future collaborations, partnerships, or invitations? Guests whispered about the potential ripple effects, suggesting that the evening had become a microcosm of broader social hierarchies, where influence and perception were currency, and the slightest misstep could carry consequences far beyond the event itself. Even the bride and groom, Benny Blanco and Selena Gomez, were not immune from scrutiny. Observers debated how much they were aware of the tension, whether they had planned it, and whether they had sanctioned the actions of the security team. Some suggested that Benny, calm and collected, was maintaining neutrality to avoid escalating the situation further. Others speculated that Selena's assertive stance was entirely independent, a reflection of her social strategy rather than any orchestrated plan involving the groom. The lack of clarity only fueled more speculation, creating a feedback loop of rumor and interpretation that would dominate conversation long after the night ended. Perhaps the most fascinating aspect of the insider commentary was the diversity of interpretations. Guests with personal ties to Meghan tended to frame the incident as an unjust humiliation, emphasizing her dignity, composure, and grace under pressure. Those closer to Selena emphasized her assertiveness, confidence, and ability to control a complex social environment. Neutral observers marveled at the spectacle itself, analyzing body language, micro-expressions, and the subtle choreography of social signaling. In all cases, the narratives were amplified by a mixture of curiosity, admiration, and the human fascination with conflict and hierarchy. And then there were the leaks, small, often cryptic, details shared by insiders on social media or whispered in hallways. A friend of a guest hinted at a prior conversation between Meghan and Selena, a tension that had apparently simmered unnoticed until tonight. Another source speculated about subtle rivalries related to mutual acquaintances, shared social circles, and overlapping spheres of influence. Each leak, whether factual or speculative, added another layer to the story, creating a tapestry of intrigue that observers could analyze, debate, and embellish at will. The media frenzy, fueled by insider reactions and leaks, quickly transformed the incident from a private moment into a public narrative. Headlines framed the story as a clash of titans, pop princess versus former duchess, the wedding showdown everyone's talking about. Analysis pieces dissected the body language, psychological dynamics, and potential motives. Social media influencers created video breakdowns, offering minute-by-minute interpretations, adding commentary that ranged from analytical to sensationalist. The incident had transcended the ballroom, becoming a global story in real time. Meanwhile, within the ballroom, the aftershocks continued. Meghan, despite the public humiliation, navigated the remaining interactions with careful strategy. Every handshake, every greeting, every smile was calculated to maintain composure, project confidence, and assert presence without escalation. Selena, equally aware of the optics, maintained her strategic positioning, ensuring that the narrative of dominance, control, and influence remained intact. Guests observed, speculated, and adjusted their own interactions accordingly, creating a dynamic and shifting web of alliances and social signaling. Perhaps the most revealing aspect of the insider commentary was the focus on microstrategies. Observers analyzed subtle cues, Meghan's brief eye contact with supportive allies, her decision to engage selectively, the positioning of her body relative to cameras and guests. Selena's gestures, meanwhile, were framed as both confident and calculated, a performance designed to reinforce dominance, signal control, and shape perception. The interplay of these microstrategies created a psychological drama that rivaled the overt spectacle, adding layers of intrigue and fascination for both in-person guests and the digital audience. The rumors also began to speculate about long-term implications. Would this incident affect future invitations, collaborations, or partnerships? Could it shape public perception in a lasting way? Would Meghan respond publicly, privately, or strategically ignore the incident? These questions fueled ongoing debate, ensuring that the story remained active in social consciousness long after the wedding itself. Every observer, insider, and online commentator seemed to have their own interpretation, their own agenda, and their own prediction about what would unfold next. And just as the rumor mill reached fever pitch, a new twist emerged, one that insiders say no one saw coming. A subtle gesture, a whispered comment, a small but intentional move shifted the attention of the room once again. Guests froze, whispers intensified, and social media audiences speculated frantically. The next wave of drama was about to erupt, and the story was far from over. But what happened next would reveal secrets that insiders had been hinting at for weeks, and it would change the narrative in ways no one expected. Within minutes of the security incident at Benny Blanco's wedding, the digital world erupted. Social media platforms, already a second stage for every celebrity moment, became a battleground of opinions, memes, and viral commentary. Clips of Meghan Markle's forced displacement circulated rapidly, some framed in shock, some in humor, some in outright judgment. Every platform was ablaze. Twitter threads dissecting her facial expressions, Instagram stories replaying the subtle gestures, TikTok videos overlaying music and commentary to dramatize the scene. Millions tuned in virtually as the story took on a life of its own. Why did social media explode so quickly? Because it thrives on immediacy, spectacle, and narrative tension. A single second of video, captured at precisely the right angle, becomes a story in the hands of millions. For Meghan, the optics were brutal. The former Duchess, previously a figure of dignity and poise, now portrayed as a guest being guided out by security at a celebrity wedding. Context mattered little. The story became a simple headline: Meghan humiliated at Selena Gomez's wedding. And in a digital environment driven by shares, likes, and virality, nuance often gets lost. Fans and critics alike took sides almost immediately. Supporters of Meghan flooded comment sections with messages of empathy. Stay strong, Meghan. She handled that with grace. No one deserves public humiliation like that. Meanwhile, critics, eager for drama, framed the incident differently. She probably brought this on herself. This is what happens when royalty tries to mix in Hollywood. Memes emerged quickly, juxtaposing Meghan's dignified expressions against the orchestrated movements of security, often humorously exaggerating the perceived tension between her and Selena. The speed at which social media amplified the event was staggering. Within an hour, hundreds of thousands of views had accumulated across multiple platforms. Clips were remixed, slowed down, zoomed in on, and replayed endlessly. Commentators offered microanalyses: the tilt of Meghan's head, the subtle squint of her eyes, Selena's calm smile. Everything was scrutinized and reinterpreted. The ballroom drama had become a global spectacle, unfolding not just in real time, but across every digital touchpoint imaginable. Influencers and celebrity commentators joined the fray, offering their interpretations. Some praised Selena for her assertiveness, framing the moment as a strategic demonstration of social dominance. Others sympathized with Meghan, highlighting her composure under unexpected pressure. The debate spilled into live streams, podcasts, and reaction videos. Even casual observers who weren't following celebrity news began engaging, drawn in by the intensity, the spectacle, and the inherent drama of the encounter. What made the social media backlash particularly intense was the layering of context, speculation, and narrative creation. Some posts suggested there had been previous tension between Meghan and Selena, while others imagined alliances and rivalries among the guests. Photos taken moments before the incident were suddenly analyzed for subtle cues: who was standing where, who was looking at whom, who was positioned closest to Selena. Every detail, no matter how small, became fodder for commentary. The hashtags related to the incident began trending globally. Hashtag Meghan at Selena wedding. Hashtag celebrity showdown. Hashtag Hollywood humiliation. Millions of users contributed posts, creating a constant feedback loop of visibility, speculation, and interpretation. Influencers created breakdown videos, pausing the footage frame by frame to analyze facial expressions, gestures, and positioning. Social media algorithms, favoring engagement and virality, further amplified the content, ensuring that the incident reached audiences far beyond the wedding's guest list. In the digital realm, the stakes were even higher than in the ballroom itself. Every comment, share, or reaction contributed to shaping public perception. Supporters and critics alike engaged in micro-battles online, debating whether Meghan had been wronged or whether the incident was the natural outcome of celebrity politics. Memes and videos amplified the emotional stakes, often exaggerating gestures for comedic or dramatic effect. Social media transformed a private humiliation into a public spectacle with near-universal visibility. Some of the most compelling social media content came from real-time reactions by those in attendance. Guests recorded videos discreetly, sharing snippets of the unfolding drama. These posts often included side commentary, whispered observations, subtle reactions, and speculation on motives. Fans around the world devoured these clips, replaying them, sharing them, and interpreting them in ways that extended the narrative far beyond the ballroom. The backlash was multifaceted. Some criticized Selena for orchestrating what appeared to be an unnecessary humiliation. Others questioned Meghan's behavior, wondering if her presence or demeanor had provoked the situation. Still others focused on the broader implications for celebrity culture, the dynamics of power, influence, and social signaling in Hollywood and beyond. Each reaction added layers to the story, making the incident both more complex and more sensational. Interestingly, even celebrities outside the event weighed in. Some tweeted cryptic commentary, others liked or shared posts related to the incident, and a few even directly posted their interpretations or opinions. The ripple effect extended through networks, amplifying the story and ensuring it remained a topic of discussion for days. The ballroom drama had effectively become a global conversation, with millions contributing to the narrative and shaping the perception of everyone involved. In the midst of the online storm, Meghan's team worked quietly behind the scenes. Publicists, advisors, and allies monitored social media trends, assessing the narrative and considering strategic responses. Should a statement be issued? Should silence be maintained? Should she engage directly or allow the public to interpret on their own? Every option carried risk, and timing was critical. The digital world, relentless and immediate, left little room for miscalculation. The emotional impact on Meghan cannot be understated. Public humiliation, especially when amplified online, carries both personal and professional consequences. Her composure, tested in the ballroom, now faced a global audience dissecting her reactions. Every micro-expression, every subtle movement, and every glance was being interpreted in real time. The pressure was immense, yet she continued to navigate the situation with a combination of grace, strategy, and subtle defiance. By the end of the night, the social media backlash had not only amplified the incident, but had also created a secondary narrative, one in which Meghan's response, Selena's authority, and the reactions of other guests became intertwined into a story larger than the event itself. Every tweet, post, and comment contributed to a narrative web that would dominate headlines, discussions, and social media feeds for days to come. And just when it seemed the online frenzy had peaked, a new wave of commentary emerged, insiders sharing behind-the-scenes insights, previously unknown details, and speculative analysis that added even more